The presenter of our main talk today is Alan Prewitt. Alan says he's been in Houston for about 5 years. He's a graduate of Texas A&M University, where he got a bachelor's in business. After graduation, he's been working in IT for the oil and gas industry. He is the founder of Lambda Next Gen Houston, a young professionals network for the LGBT community, and he is now sits as the board president on other young LGBT professionals whom he greatly admires. He is also active in MSLA. I had to ask for what that is. That's the Montrose Softball League Association. Isn't that kind of redundant? A league and association's the same thing. Okay, so we're really grateful to have. I think with Michelle's talk and with Alan's talk, I guess coming out is kind of a theme of our meeting today, which is really cool because it's kind of part of what we're about. It's consistent. Our fifth core value is be accepting and be accepted, and this vision of building a community and now a network of communities where human beings are free to be who they are and live authentic lives, and how empowering and joyful a thing that is. So we're really, really grateful to have Alan Prewitt with us today. Let's give him a warm welcome to Houston Oasis.
Hello, can you hear me? All right, thanks for the intro, Mike. Thank you for spending your Sunday listening to me talk about myself. I know you're really excited about that. Just to give a few caveats before we start to set the stage right. I am in no way a subject matter expert on all things gay. This is just one white gay male's experience of coming out, and it's a positive one, so this isn't going to be a sob story, hopefully, for you. I'm not going to be going in depth to anything religious, because that's not the objective of this. And I'm not acting as an agent of my company. I'm not going to talk about my employer or anything like that. You have to go through commercial communications and all that, and I didn't want to hit that can of worms. So, for those of you that don't know, I mean, he mentioned I go to A&M. Any Aggies out there? Woo! Okay. So one, we've got one. Thanks for representing and coming out specifically here. So just because I've had 3 cups of coffee, my heart's going crazy, and I don't like speaking in public, but of course I chose to do this. To make me feel more at home, I'm going to get you to interact a little bit. So every time I say Oasis, we have a call at A&M, and it's called Whoop. Hey, every time I say Oasis, you respond back with, hey, whoop. Oh God, I feel so much better. You have ZPs, don't ask what those are. I don't want to go into that story. But the objective of this is I'm going to take you back into when I first came out, which happened to be at A&M. And that was about 6 years ago, so I had to really think about that. I was like, God, it's been forever since I've done that. But what I hope you take away from this is that you get insight into what it's like for an LGBT person to come out, in my own viewpoint anyway, and to actually subscribe to becoming a member of the LGBT community. It's not, there's no formal process, but you'll see what I mean. And also I want you to understand the impacts of allies. So for those that don't know, allies are part of the non-minority that are helping a minority group to advocate. They play different roles through organizations, different lenses. So if you don't know, you're probably an ally, but I want you to know the impact and take special note of when I approach allies throughout the story. Okay, so 6 years ago, what am I doing? I am sitting on my couch at A&M. My roommate and I are talking about, I guess, the news or the current events of the day, and it's during break, so we have nothing else to do, so we're watching TV, and he mentions how Glee, I don't know if any of you are familiar with that show, how Glee has been getting a lot of heat because it had like a gay episode, and I was like, gay episode, what? Okay, and then I went into my room and watched it in privacy. I was like, okay, I need to see what this is. And all of a sudden I'm watching and I'm like, oh God, it's happening, I'm gay now. Because I just started watching and there was somebody singing Teenage Dream. I'm like, oh my God, this is like he's singing to me. What are these feelings? And for those that you don't know, I mean, if you get suspicions that that show turned you gay, it's true. So, totally true, like just, it's over now, but just watch out. So anyway, now we're to the first part of the coming out process, and it's the most difficult part for me, which is coming out to yourself. So it was actually really serious. I mean, it's amazing how the most profound effect something so small can have on you. So I laid it, oh, there's no visual aid, so enjoy this blue screen. It's amazing. So I laid in bed and thought to myself, probably crying and hyperventilating because I just realized something that I'd probably been suppressing for years and years and years, is that, what does it mean to be gay? What does it mean to me, and what do I know about it? I know about the AIDS crisis, and I know gay people have that a lot, so that was not a pleasant image in my head. I know the way that they're portrayed in the media, and a lot of times mocked, flamboyance, promiscuity, not a lot of positives coming in. I know, or just found out through the grapevine, that I had a gay uncle who died of AIDS complications. Never heard of him until that point, so not positive there. And then I started thinking and asking questions. How are people going to perceive me? How are my friends going to look at me? Am I going to have an asterisk next to my name as Gay Alan? Alan who is gay. And that would be forever something that would tempt my name instead of who I was and who my friends had gotten to know me over the past 3 years. So, and also there's the inevitable fear of, are all my guy friends going to think that I'm hitting on them, or that this has been like some scam the entire time, that 3 years later now I'm gay, sorry, and I love you. Like that was what I was thinking. They were probably going to think that. And then I started thinking about where my friends were in their lives. They're all moving on. I had a job at the time going into senior year. I, however, had never dated, none of that. Everybody I knew, it's engagement season, getting engaged, getting ready to move on with their lives, and growing up. And I started thinking, I was like, I'm really behind in accepting myself for who I am and coming out as a real adult. I have a semester, basically, to grow up. And panic ensued, because it feels like I've been procrastinating for years. I was like, man, I feel like I've just crammed for an exam and I'm not ready at all. And then on top of that, I was thinking, God, I have no fashion sense. I'm still wearing t-shirts. I mean, how am I ever going to get my gay card? I haven't even seen Rent. It's just a lot of things going in my head. So at this point, now it's time. I'm stressed. And when I'm stressed, I need to talk about it. I need to talk to somebody. I need to find somebody that I trust. And this is where, ding, 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 Oasis, comes in my first ally, and one of the most powerful, because she's my first. So the thing about the first person you come out to is when you tell them, it becomes real. Not only to them, but to you. You are now acknowledging it out loud. And I was not acknowledging it in that then. I was trying to fight that feeling. But now I had to acknowledge it. So I found somebody that I trusted as a mentor on campus who actually had a visible ally sign. We had those at A&M. And it was something rainbow, and I walked in, I was like, okay, this is a good sign. So I contacted her, I said, I need to talk to you, and came into her office and kind of spilled my guts, what I had been thinking, all the questions. And this is where I found my rock, or my foundation. So for those of you who don't know, how many of you have been rappelling off a cliff, skydiving, any of that? So coming out, especially the first time, similar sensation to when you're lowering yourself down off of the cliff. Like you are no longer on solid ground and you're lowering yourself down, or you're flying head first out of a plane. It's a sinking feeling and an incredibly uncomfortable and an unnatural feeling too. But that's what it's like. So I told her, spilled my guts, and all she did was listen. She didn't have any judgment. But what she did do is ask me clarifying questions. She knew enough about the topic to ask the right ones, fortunately for me. And she knew resources that I could reach out to find answers for myself so that I could become okay with myself. So I became, I guess, comfortable now, and now she kind of coached me a little bit on how coming out would work, and gave me some helpful hints from people that I talked to. So first reaction, not the last. If they don't react well, that's okay. You're not entitled to them reacting well. It's very hard for a loved one to put your face, if they love you, in front of something that they hate and say they still hate it. So the first reaction is not the last. It's a journey. It's not something that everyone just inherently will accept. Educate yourself. Knowledge is power. So you can anticipate the questions that they'll naturally ask. So be ready for those. And somebody's reaction is not going to be what you expect. It may be the opposite, actually. A lot of people's moms, they think mom's going to be fine with this. Mom's not okay with it. But dad's totally good. And he'll be your biggest ally. So, what do? I've come out to my first ally. Now it's time to tell the world. Maybe not, just maybe a few friends and family. But at this point, being a project manager, I've made a plan on a page and lit a rocket out of the closet. I'm like, this is it. I gotta catch up. I got 1 semester to live. And so I've mapped out my family. I was like, gonna go tell Houston family this week. Boom. Report back to my ally how that went. Boom. Next weekend, I'm gonna go to Dallas. Tell everybody. Tell my dad. Tell my sisters. Report back to my ally. How'd that go? Then we're gonna go for best friends. Report back to ally. How did that go? And surprisingly, I won't go into the details, but nothing really to report on. It was actually pretty smooth, seamless. Everybody just wanted me to be healthy and happy, weirdly enough. So saw a cute guy, boom, went back to my ally. Oh my God, I like guys. I think they're cute. I'm enjoying that I am able to have crushes. Weird. I've never had those before. And then let people find out through the grapevine. And then here we are at the end of senior year. I've left college and finished probably the most stressful and traumatic 6 months of my life, but a very positive one. Because at the end of it, every single one of them, relationships that I most value, reaffirmed. Most people don't reaffirm their relationships at one point of their life. Are we still friends? Am I still important to you? At this point, my relationships reveal themselves to be more than that. I reaffirmed my friendships, the value that they had, my family and those ties, and it was a really special time. But now, Alan's going to the real world. And now I have to face the realities that I was incredibly nervous about, which everybody else is kind of ahead on me. I mean, they've been dating since they were, 12? They've been flirting and dating for however long and met their people, and now they're getting married and moving on and et cetera, growing up. So now that's kind of my condensed version of coming out in a very conservative university, nothing to report but great things, but now I'm in the real world, and that's the next chapter of, okay, now I have to be a member of a larger community than myself, come out at work possibly, because I'm not going to be out straight out the gate with a rainbow flag and say, here I am. You got to feel that out. And then, yeah, basically joining the real world. Being somebody that's in their 20s and like anybody else, leaving college, which is kind of a nice cushy bubble. So, for those that don't know, when you first come out, there's something called the rainbow phase. If you don't know what that is, it's what you would consider the equal and opposite reaction to spending most of your life in the closet. You are fascinated with everything, and it's just, I'll say this is applicable to me, it doesn't for everyone. But it's everything gay or LGBT was fascinating. I had to know everything. I had to be in the community and do something. So that's what I was very much focused on personally when I left college. Incredibly jarring experience as well. You thought coming out was hard. It's also hard to come into a new community you don't really know that much about. It's kind of like the first day of high school. You may remember that horrible time? First day of high school? Well, for those of you that are not familiar, if you're not in the LGBT community, it's very similar to high school. It's basically like a refurbished high school. And why do I say that? Gay men, they have categories and boxes for you, no matter where you go. And this is kind of a sad reality that I realize is that the LGBT community at times can be its own worst enemy. And so when I joined it, I quickly realized that everyone had a box. And I'm not kidding, these are the boxes, some examples. Jock, geek, twink, bear. And if you don't tick any of those, you're one of the random floater people that don't have a box or association, and you are invisible, I guess. I don't know what that means for you. And they even have descriptions on body types and hair. There's bear, otter, wolf. I'm not kidding. I was amazed. I was like, this is a whole new world. And there's not even a koala, which is totally what I would have picked, because it's adorable. So of course, how do you meet people like this? And when you come out, everyone's like, who are you dating? And then if you're single, you have to awkwardly say, oh, I know, I went through all that, but I still am single, I'll figure it out, okay? And then eventually, people all have their subscriptions or their prescriptions on how you should get a boyfriend. So, okay, so I go online and I go to the bars, because what else are you gonna do? I don't know anything, so I go to the bars. What are those like? It's like a small town in a big city. Everyone knows each other's business, everyone comes with their friends, everyone has their circles, and if you're not part of those, or you don't have a posse that goes with you, rolling in 10 deep, you're kind of out of luck. Good luck meeting people. I managed, but it was hard, and it was miserable for me, and I was lost in that. And I didn't fit in any of those boxes. I couldn't tick one. I was like, I gotta put on 100 pounds to be part of something. Like, this is ridiculous. And online is no better. Online is worse. It's a meat market. Men are visual people a lot of times, but that is just a concentrated version of it. So you have the same boxes that you literally tick in those applications to meet people, and then people tell you their interests, it's a meat market, and then amazingly, you also see another dark side of that community, which is that it's incredibly racist. It's incredibly homophobic internally. And you wouldn't expect that. But you do, because the prevailing theme on all these profiles, it doesn't matter what some of them are blank because people are anonymous, some of them torsos. So I mean, it's not even like a human interaction. But you go in and you see these profiles of whites only, mask for mask, no femmes, and you start seeing that over and over and over, and then you realize how insecure the community is and how much like high school it is. So I was struggling, personally struggling in that environment, because that wasn't what I was brought up to believe or be. It was more about the content of your character, not the way that you look or the boxes that you ticked. But it's amazing to me how quickly, even in conversation, people would devalue each other in that community, and how broken it was, and how sad that was to me, that instead of, I don't know what I pictured. Maybe I was let free as now coming out and I could frolic with other gay people in a field or something. I didn't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that. It was probably more of like a community. So for me, it was a kind of enlightening moment to realize that, that personally, I was struggling to find people that I could connect with, even though I went to all that trouble to come to this place. So what do? I find a mentor, an ally. Oasis, are you here? I found an ally in college, and in A&M, what they do in these situations when there's nothing that's fitting your current niche is you make your own way. So I was stressed about it. I was like, I can't find anything. I can't meet people the right way. And you know, I found the MSLA, which was a great group of people, but it still wasn't what I wanted. I couldn't find it in the bar scene, and online was miserable. So I was thinking, there's nothing else really out there. So a lot of ways to meet other people my age, fresh out of college, out, none of that. So my mentor said, well, why don't you do something about it instead of whining? How about you be the change you want to see? So that was a tough challenge, and I took it. So I started a happy hour. Amazingly, outside of the gay bars, people started showing up. And month by month, the numbers grew, and now we're about 1,000. And eventually it grew because other people felt the same way. Nobody else was content with the way that the community was. They couldn't find their niche. They couldn't find their outlet. And so they were searching just like I was. And they didn't like the bars either. They just went because that's what people were doing. So eventually it grew, and the numbers grew, and we became a nonprofit. And it's amazing to me the ripple effects that your actions can have without you realizing. You don't even fathom. Did my first ally fathom that I would start a nonprofit? No. Did the person that challenged me to do something about it even fathom that I would do that? No. Just said, go, stop whining and stop talking to me about this. But now I look at it and I see postings, and I see the connections that people have made through that, the networking connections. Ladies don't have it easy either, and that was a way that lesbians could meet as well. It was an LGBT group. So it's amazing, I could see friendships forming, even relationships, not the intent, but I could see relationships forming, and really long-lasting ones, because it was a setting outside of that environment. So, let's go to work, right? This is all personal, right? Not really. unfortunately for a lot of my friends, they're not comfortable coming out at work, nor would that be acceptable. For me, it was really acceptable, actually. I found mentors again, people. Found a mentor. And there was no visible sign at the time. So I had to kind of feel it out. I had to do a risk-based analysis. Okay, how many things is she saying that would maybe slander against me, and then figure out where I fell. And eventually I got the hint once she said, I used to be involved in diversity and inclusion, which is a big thing for us. And I said, okay, she gets it. So I talked to her about it. And she, in a matter of lunch, said, I've got your back if anything happens to you. If you want to talk about anything, you're welcome to come to me. And just remember that our policies, people can't discriminate. They have to leave whatever issues they have at the door. They can't discriminate against you and actively go against you. That's not allowed. It's against policy. So having her say that meant a lot. It meant that there was somebody I could come to with personal things and professional. It was the first time I had a bridge like that. And so I took that, and I felt more comfortable and went to a social, because we have an LGBT employee resource group, ERG. And so I went to that, and they saw me as a young new person, and they said, great, come to a steering committee, I'd like you to hear what we do, etc. So I said, okay, sure. And I go, and then all of a sudden I'm on the steering committee. That's how they announced me. You're on the steering committee, congrats, welcome to the new member. It was a trap, is what it really was. But by doing that, it meant that I had to go talk to my manager about it and come out. It kind of pushed me to do it. But I did, and it wasn't a problem. She immediately was like, okay, how can I help? I want to come to all the events. Tell me whatever you're doing. I need to know. And I support you spending time on this. And every manager following her has followed the same kind of suit. It's amazing. So now I'm into a new phase of my life that's no longer rainbow. It's what I'll call the normative phase. It's the phase where things don't interest me because they're gay. In fact, that may deter me from it because I'm a little burnt out on that. Now I'm kind of able to meld my identity of being a gay man that I neglected for so long and then really overloaded on that piece for a while, and kind of meld the two identities, who I am versus this facet of who I am. But however, that doesn't stop me from taking the lead and making things easier for me, or making things easier for others that follow me, is what I should say. So by the allies that have helped me along the way, I've been able to hopefully pave the way and make things easier for people to follow me. Let's make sure I don't forget anything in my normative phase. Oasis. So, okay, I think I've covered most things on the normative phase, and I'll pull it together in a nice little summary for you and wrap a bow on it. A really big gay bow. But yeah, not a lot is really consuming me. My gay things are not consuming the front of my mind. The learning curve's over. It's all not new to me anymore, and I can actually focus on, in work, being a better employee, developing myself like a normal 20-something person. I can actually focus on what makes me happy and being a better person. Those things are now what I'm able to focus on now, 5 or 6 years later, because the allies in my life have truly shaped, in a positive way, the experience so that I can get over this. It's just a phase of my life that I was able to move past, and I'm glad I experienced it, and everyone probably needs to that is in this position. But it went smooth, and that was because of the allies in my life. So, I like this quote. It's from my favorite, Joan Rivers, but it doesn't get better, but you do. So as an ally, you're helping better the person that's coming to you. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You can be a sounding board. You can do a lot of things. You can play a lot of roles, whether you have the answer or not, or know somebody that does. That's all they need. Maybe they just need somebody to listen to them, because a lot of times they may already have the answer, but are afraid to say it out loud. And you don't understand the ripple effects of what you're doing. You really don't. You can't. You don't have visibility of that. But if you noticed, right now, there's a lot of people that are out. every person that comes out makes it easier for the person that followed them because they're giving them a new frame of reference. They're giving them a new version of what normal could look like for them. They're trying to see how could they be happy in this reality. And every person that comes out also could be a potential leader that'll help people and pave the way for them and make it easier for them. So just remember, the impact that you have is profound. There's ripple effects to what you do. So don't underestimate your power and being the shoulder that people will cry on. Don't underestimate being a friend and being an ally. So that's all I have for you now today. You're all important, fantastic, and thank you for listening to me rabble on about being gay. I don't know. Thanks.
We have time for just a couple questions. So Susan?
I guess I just want to say thank you to you and Michelle for, if I feel empathetic in some area toward somebody that I may not understand, but I may not have the vocabulary, and that fact may put me in an awkward position where I'm frozen. So you're giving me some vocabulary to put in my own head and then be able maybe to be an ally in many areas. And Michelle, yes, also, thank you wherever you are.
Yeah.
Giving me a vocabulary as well.
Syntax is really tricky. I was awful at it. It's one of the biggest challenges in the learning curve. And if you're in one of those positions where you don't know the right thing to say or you're afraid that you may offend or whatever, put that as a caveat when you start the conversation. I don't know enough about this, but I'm willing to be here for you, and that will speak volumes. So don't shy away from a conversation if it comes to you just because you're not a subject matter expert.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Alan, for being with us today. And